Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the materials you send us, jump right in, and pull out the key insights.
Yep. We do the digging so you get the core stuff, the really important takeaways without getting bogged down.
Exactly. We're aiming for that focused understanding, especially for, well, our learner listeners who want knowledge quickly but thoroughly.
And today we've got a really interesting collection someone sent in. It's all about dating advice from David DeAngelo.
Ah, okay. DeAngelo.
Yeah. And what's cool is the mix of stuff we have here. There are like advice columns, Q&As, success stories from people trying it out, and his own anecdotes.
So quite a mix then.
Definitely.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive. Sift through all these dating tips and distill the actionable stuff. What are we expecting to find?
Well, we should hit on things like having a default thing to do, which sounds intriguing.
Right.
And understanding attraction in ways that maybe go beyond just, being the nice guy.
Oh, interesting.
And this concept called cocky and funny.
Cocky and funny. Okay. We'll definitely need to unpack that one.
For sure.
All right. So the goal is clear summaries, but also, memorable details, maybe some examples, all presented clearly. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. First big area. Taking action and having a plan.
Okay.
A really core idea that comes up again and again in this material is having a sort of pre-planned default thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially for common situations like when you first meet someone you might be interested in.
And the source material seems pretty passionate about this. I saw that quote about inaction.
Oh, yeah. There's this bit where it just screams frustration, basically. It says, and he just doesn't do it. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Wow. Okay, so it's really emphasizing that freezing up or doing nothing is like a major pitfall.
Totally. It suggests that knowing what you could do helps you actually do something. Preparation beats that paralysis,
Right, the opportunity paralysis. Makes sense.
And it connects this directly to, say, getting contact info, like an email or phone number. You need to know your steps.
Is that where the Mr. Smooth thing comes in?
Exactly. The Mr. Smooth in the cell phone store analogy. It paints this picture of someone who's clearly got it figured out versus someone just fumbling.
Yeah, that's a sticky image. Effortless versus awkward.
It really shows the difference a plan makes.
And the source also makes this, well, pretty bold claim, doesn't it? About what women want.
It does. It says straight up, women want you to take the next step.
Okay. That definitely pushes against some narratives.
Yeah, the argument here is that often women are waiting for the guy to signal clear interest and move things forward.
Yeah.
If he hangs back.
She might just think he's not interested, even if they had a good chat.
That's the idea presented. The opportunity just evaporates.
So how do you avoid being that guy, the one who just doesn't do it? Does it give steps?
It does. Pretty practical ones, actually. First, pick
Yeah.
a common situation. One you find yourself in regularly. Could be anywhere.
Like the coffee shop line or, party, whatever.
Okay. Then, step 2, think back. Mentally replay how those situations usually go for you. What works? What feels stuck? Where did you miss a chance?
Okay, self-review. Got it.
And then you brainstorm, like really brainstorm. Come up with, say, 10 or even 20 different ways you could handle that moment.
20 ways, wow.
Yeah, it's not about having a rigid script, but more like having a mental toolbox, options ready to go.
So you're prepared to act, not just react.
Yeah.
Or freeze.
Exactly. And here's the interesting part. The source suggests that when you do start using these defaults and have small successes, it actually builds your confidence, which then makes you feel more comfortable being, spontaneous later on.
So it's like a feedback loop. Plan action, success, confidence, more natural action.
Precisely. It builds on itself.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Planning leads to action. Action leads to confidence.
Got it. Shall we switch gears? Maybe tackle that attraction piece.
Yeah, let's do it. Key insight 2, rethinking attraction, moving beyond just being nice. This sounds like where things might get a bit counterintuitive.
Definitely. This is where the source, it challenges some common assumptions. The main theme is that attraction often isn't like a logical choice.
Right. You can't reason someone into being attracted to you.
Exactly. And it often seems to defy that sort of polite, nice guy behavior.
So how does it suggest we think about this? I saw something about an assignment.
Yeah, that's a good one. It asks you to list things that should work logically. Being super nice, buying gifts, constant compliments.
The standard playbook for some, maybe?
Yeah, right. Then compare that list to your actual experiences. Did those things reliably create attraction?
Probably a mixed bag for most people, I'd guess.
Likely. And then comes the kicker, the thought experiment. Just imagine for a second that women are wired in reverse.
Wired in reverse. What does that even mean in this context?
It means, like, what if the things that seem like they shouldn't work actually do? What if being a bit challenging or less predictable is more attractive than constant niceness?
Okay, that's definitely a mental shift. It forces you to question assumptions.
Exactly. And this leads straight into the argument that being too nice, like always seeking approval, never disagreeing, being overly complimentary, can backfire.
Fire how?
It can make you seem insecure. The source uses a pretty blunt term for this, a wuss bag.
Oof. Okay, direct.
Very direct. But the point is that constant need for validation can, paradoxically, be unattractive.
Yeah.
It signals a lack of, well, self-assuredness.
Which isn't generally seen as attractive. Okay, so if that doesn't work, what does? This is where cocky and funny comes in.
That's the proposed alternative. Cocky and funny, or CNF. It's presented as a generator of attraction.
How so?
Well, the source mentions readers finding success with it, and it kind of taps into that observation that sometimes women seem drawn to jerks.
Whoa, okay, let's clarify that. It's not endorsing being a jerk, right?
No, definitely not the abusive or mean parts. It clarifies that. It's more about isolating certain behaviors sometimes seen in those types, like the confidence, the teasing, not being needy for approval, that underlying vibe.
Okay, so it's the confidence and the playfulness, maybe, without the actual jerkiness.
That seems to be the idea. There's even an example of a reader playfully accusing a girl of lying about something trivial, and it working well.
So a lighthearted challenge, not taking things too seriously, being engaging.
Exactly. A bit unpredictable. It creates a spark, maybe.
Interesting. So is there a rule of thumb here?
Yeah, the source gives a kind of golden rule. If you want attraction versus just friendship, you probably need to act differently.
Meaning the things you do to be a good friend might not be the things that create that romantic spark.
That's the core message there. Different goals, different behaviors.
Okay, so act with a plan and understand that attraction isn't just about being nice. It might involve some playful confidence. What about practical stuff, like actually connecting, getting contact info?
Right. Let's get into key insight 3, practical techniques. And the source gives a really concrete one for getting email addresses.
Email. Okay, seems a bit old school maybe, but let's hear it.
Well, it's presented as low pressure. Here's the sequence it suggests. You have a short chat, maybe 3 to 4 minutes.
Brief interaction. Okay.
Then you signal you're leaving, like, hey, got to get back to my friends or whatever. Make it seem like the conversation is naturally ending.
Creates a bit of takeaway maybe.
Possibly. But then just as you're turning away, you kind of turn back, maybe a bit suddenly, and say, hey, do you have email?
Okay, the hey adds a bit of surprise.
Yeah.
And the question is just, do you have email?
Exactly. Not, can I have your email? It's just asking about possession.
Yeah.
Very low demand.
Huh. Clever.
Yeah.
Lowers the barrier to saying yes, I guess.
That's the idea. And if she says yes,
Then what?
you immediately pull out pen and paper, or maybe your phone nowadays, and say, great, jot it down for me. Just assume compliance.
Okay.
And the source adds another little layer here. While she's writing the email, you casually add, and throw your number down there too.
Piggybacking on the email agreement while she's already in the motion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Increases the odds, capitalizes on the momentum.
And what if she says she doesn't have email? Which seems unlikely. But...
Right. The source has a funny comeback for that. Well, do you have electricity?
Okay. That's definitely cocky and funny territory. Keep it light. Maybe pivot to the phone number then.
Precisely. And the big takeaway here, again, is rehearsal. Mentally walk through this sequence.
So it feels natural, not like you're reading a script off your hand.
Exactly. It becomes another default thing to do, making you more confident when the moment comes.
It all connects back. Okay, this is useful, practical stuff. But what about when things don't go smoothly? The challenges, the mindset.
Good question. That brings us to our final key insight area, navigating challenges and mindset.
Because let's be real, not every approach works out.
Absolutely. And the source material acknowledges this. It doesn't pretend it's all easy wins. There's an example of a reader who was really struggling, like just paralyzed by the fear of approaching.
Okay, what was the advice for him?
It was pretty radical, actually. Go out and talk to 100 women in the next 30 days.
Wow, 100 women. That's a lot. What was the goal? Get 100 numbers?
No, that's the key. The only goal is to make them smile.
Just make them smile. That's it.
That's it. No pressure for a number, a date, nothing. Just elicit a positive, fleeting reaction.
Why that goal?
Well, the thinking seems to be, first, it desensitizes you. You approach so many people, rejection loses its sting. It becomes data, not disaster.
Okay, exposure therapy, basically.
Kind of. And
Yeah.
second, it helps you realize you have something positive to offer. Even in a tiny interaction, you can make someone's day slightly better with just a word or two. Builds a different kind of confidence.
Interesting. Shifting the focus from getting something to giving a small positive moment.
Exactly. The source also talks about composure, how important that is.
Composure, like keeping your cool.
Yeah. It uses this analogy of getting a parking ticket.
Okay.
Does the person freak out, yell, get flustered, or do they handle it calmly, maybe even crack a joke? That ability to stay grounded, not let small things derail you.
That's attractive in itself, signals stability.
Right. It ties into this idea of not putting too much weight on what any one person thinks.
Easier said than done, maybe, but I see the point.
For sure. The source suggests a lot of that fear is just programming, old beliefs about rejection that aren't necessarily, objective reality.
Challenging your own internal narrative.
Yeah. And one last point here. It briefly advises against being too overtly sexual right at the beginning.
Okay. Build attraction first.
Seems to be the message. Connect, build that spark, that rapport before going down that road. Don't act like you're already in a relationship on day one.
Makes sense. Let things unfold. Don't rush it.
Right. So that kind of covers the main ground. Should we wrap up with the key takeaways?
Yeah, let's summarize. So from this deep dive into David DeAngelo's advice, what have we pulled out?
Well, first, the big emphasis on having a plan, a default, to overcome inaction. Preparation matters.
Right. Take action. Don't just wait.
Second, rethinking attraction. It's maybe more complex than just being nice. That cocky and funny idea suggests confidence and playfulness are key ingredients.
Nuance, not just niceness. Okay.
Third, those practical techniques, like the specific sequence for getting an email address, low pressure, rehearsable.
Concrete tools. And finally,
Mindset is huge. Handling challenges, maintaining composure, maybe reframing rejection through exercises like the Make 100 Women Smile goal.
got it. Plan, understand attraction's complexity, use techniques, and cultivate the right mindset.
That's a pretty good summary.
And just to remind everyone, these aren't our opinions. These are the insights distilled directly from the listener-submitted DeAngelo material. Hopefully a useful shortcut to being well-informed on this perspective.
Yeah, we really hope this gives you, our learner, some food for thought. Maybe consider how these ideas, planning, challenging assumptions about attraction mindset could apply elsewhere too. Not just dating, but, other areas of learning or interaction.
That's a great point, which leads nicely into our final provocative thought for you to mull over.
Okay.
Given some of the, let's say, unconventional advice we discussed today, especially around attraction, what other widely accepted common sense beliefs, maybe in totally different fields, might be worth questioning? Where else could challenging the status quo lead to surprisingly better results?
Ooh, that's a good one to chew on. Makes you think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if this dive sparked your interest, feel free to explore the original sources more.
And please keep sending us your materials. If you've got a stack of articles, books, videos on any topic you want us to dive into, let us know. We love doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.